If you need motivated to get started and you want to make content for somebody, the only person that 100% knows you is you.
Our guest today is known for his talents in woodworking with over 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube.
One thing about making content for a living is you make content that's winning.
There is so much opportunity in these industries.
The technology is moving faster in the trades for 90% of the other markets in the world.
God, I hate being stuck in those job purgatories.
The reality is, once you can make that content for whomever your target market, that's when you'll really start to see growth.
We're not going to fix this problem just sitting around, just complaining about the problem.
We're just trying to bring a good positive attitude in the world.
What advice would you give a normal tradesperson?
If you can make content that people can relate to, that's how you can grow.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
All right, tradies. Harry, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, listen, I got to tell you something really funny. Over the weekend, I was invited to a curling group this last weekend. It's like the OG of dad sports. Hey, you know what I'm talking about, where you...
Yes, sadly.
Yeah, we got to play slide stones across the ice. They let us drink on the ice, and it was awesome. You need to do it.
Well, I'm glad you didn't break anything this time.
Yeah, well, I did bust my ass on the ice, and I'm feeling it today, but I got some leave to take care of that. So, by the way, you're just going to go and get copied into the next invite for that. I expect to see you and Carrie there. So, real quick, got to give credit where credit's due. New subscribers: Clayton E58, T Short 8881, Blair Tinker, Sailor Orion, Darlis Brozek, Gavin Kajuva, and Evan Wright. Hey, thanks for subscribing, guys. Totally looking forward to hearing more from you guys in the questions and comments. And as they say, like, subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification buttons for us. So, Terry, listen, I am excited today. I am like a super fan. So if I geek out, I expect you to keep me in check. Okay?
Reel you back in.
I mean, I know that I told you I have got this insane guest for us that I am also a huge fan of. I have not lost any fingers based on his content yet, but I'm ready to dive in. So are you ready for this?
Let's go.
All right, you stretched. We're good to go. Cool. So, hey, everybody out there, I'm really excited. Our guest today is known all over the world for his talents in woodworking and creation on YouTube. With over 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube, he has created a dedicated audience and showcasing some wild, just nutso carpentry projects. You know, he has segments running on Maker's Channel, Discovery Plus, YouTube, and even his own podcast called Made for Profit. And he also holds master classes on how to make money using live edge epoxy tables, which is awesome, by the way. I've already screwed up 2 of them, so thank God I have a master class to refer to now. But I'm going to put a link of that in the show notes, but I can't just hold up anymore. I'm excited to get squirrely with our awesome guest, the one, the only, John Malecki. John, welcome to the podcast, buddy. Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
Yeah, Will, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to have beers with other dudes that play with tools all day long. So cheers.
Yeah, cheers to you. And we already designated Yingling on a few sides of the table, and then I'm representing the Rocky Mountains today. Oh, and my good friends at TBC Building and Concrete, so paying it forward with my koozie. John, we could go into so many things, but I've been a big fan, obviously, for years. You know, your content not only is educational, but very entertaining. But you've got kind of a lucrative background. So, like, how the hell did you get into creating, but also getting into woodworking and furniture making? Because that seems like out of left field.
I have a kind of a journey that it sounds made up, I think, when I tell the story for the most part. But, you know, to give you the 2-minute spiel, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which, if you're not familiar, is on the eastern side of the United States in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And it's quite I guess, like a cornerstone blue collar area for the most part. And a lot of blue collar work. So growing up, I was large and I was available to help my father and grandfather, who were both in the trades. They both worked for, whether it was concrete or my dad, actually, he was hanging lightning rods at one point, doing all kinds of construction, whatever it might be. But I was always free labor to those two. So I grew up working with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I decided at a young age to pursue my passion of playing football. And I pursued that until I was fortunately about 24 years old. So I got a full scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh. I was a 4-year letterman there. And then I bounced around the NFL for about 4 years, chasing that dream. I played for 5 different teams, went through 13 different cuts, mostly playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is like a Yinzer's dream, which is what you're called if you're from where I'm from. So all of that being said, during that time frame, in the off season, you're not doing anything but working out and preparing for the next season. And so I picked up the hobby of furniture making and woodworking at the time based on wanting a coffee table because someone broke one at a party and we were young. And I was like, it'd be cool to build this, right? And I wasn't afraid of a circular saw. So I found a plan online and then I built it. And it was cool. And then I built a workbench, and then we went, through training camp and stuff that next year. And I ended up getting released and decided to, more or less hang them up. And in the off season, in that time frame of my life, it was about 2013. I was drinking a lot in garages with a buddy of mine that just bought a house, a lot of beers,
Yep.
and a lot of BS in regards to what he was going to do with his house. I just had found this like hobby of making furniture. So we just started building stuff for his house. I was putting it out there on the internet. I wanted to get into like remodeling and flipping homes. That was Chip and Joanna Gaines' heyday. We all thought a fixer-upper life was like possible in the dream. I'm sure you guys remember those days. And I was a very, I guess, impressionable young man at 23 years old, thinking that I could take my zero experience doing any of that whatsoever and only playing football my whole life with a marketing degree and then go into becoming a professional home remodeler and flipper, obviously overnight.
Yeah.
So I started with furniture thinking I could create and build things and sell them and get my hands dirty a little bit. And I kind of just started putting it out there. People started asking me to make them stuff. And I turned that into my career post football. And more or less, I kept at it, kept building those skills. I started promoting myself online, mostly on Instagram, Facebook, building clientele, showing them behind the scenes, customer interaction, all that kind of stuff. And I got on YouTube in about 2017. And that started to like bring in a lot different eyeballs. I noticed, and it changed like the business dynamics a lot there. And I more or less became a full-time YouTuber in 2018. And I've built crazy stuff on the internet. I facilitate a lot of custom commissions still to this day, to an extent, depending if it makes good content. And that's kind of been like my path. I more or less now, the content is the driver of my ship, my life, my team, my existence. But it is facilitated on like a decade of building custom furniture, more or less. And I have done a lot of remodeling work, but not as, I wouldn't say as a professional. A lot of that's been for myself. But yeah, it's definitely not a story that's just like super cookie cutter. A lot of crazy stuff's happened in there. I mean, I've been super fortunate and blessed along the way to have all my fingers still and my sanity to this extent, at least today, as we sit here.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, because Terry is actually trying to fulfill that crazy flip and hold lifestyle. And I think
Yeah.
you're like inching one asbestos tile at a time closer to mesothelioma with the buildings that you were getting.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen any of those commercials in a while, but I think there's still a chance for you, dude.
Yeah.
Oh no, you can find that stuff, and I've found plenty of it out there.
But yeah, YouTube's the driver of my ship now, and it's been a crazy journey to get to where we are today. Well,
Yeah. What I really love about this story, though, John, is you were already building a successful business and building furniture and, doing custom projects for people and things like that. I think there's a lot of that in the world of creation that people forget. Like, hey, it's not just being a good creator. You actually created a good business standalone just on that.
Yeah.
So what do you lend that to? Was that your time at college or just the grind, or how did that happen? Hey, contractors, it's Will. Listen, are you ready to take your business to the next level? I want to introduce everybody to ShipShape AI. It's an AI-powered home monitoring system that keeps your customers' homes running smoothly and gives you the edge over the competition. Imagine being the hero who spots an issue before it turns into a disaster, like a flooded basement or a busted HVAC system. ShipShape's smart sensor alerts you to the problems before they happen so you can swoop in with the solution for your customers. But it's not just about saving the day. ShipShape helps you tap into past customers with tailored marketing campaigns, turning one-time jobs into long-term relationships. Plus, you can grow your maintenance plans and get more follow-up on projects, all while offering your customers a peace of mind that they crave. And the best part, ShipShape's Pro Monitoring service handles the tech support, so you can focus on what you do best, building and maintaining and repairing homes. So in the market where the competition is fierce, now is the time to secure your customers and protect this premium pricing. Learn more at shipshape.ai or click the link in the episode description here. That's shipshape.ai. Or you can even call our friends at ShipShape at 205-207-5775. ShipShape, where smart homes meet smart contractors.
I mean, you guys could probably attest to this, and I think anybody in the trades can as well, is like you go to where the money is, and especially when it's early on, right? You got bills to pay, and most of us aren't taking on investments or things like that. So when you're bootstrapping it, you go to what's working.
Mhm.
And as a woodworker or carpenter or whatever you would want to call me, I was just doubling and tripling down on the fact that I could control mostly my effort in those regards and get good at the skills fast. I had some leverage in the Pittsburgh market based around my style. I was focusing on a lot of reclaimed wood. I got into live edge a couple years in. I learned a little bit of basic metal work. So I was welding a lot of stuff in my furniture had a little bit of opportunity to stand out. And so I was working on those skills. I was putting in a lot of hours. I was giving up a lot of other aspects of my life, and I had to pay the bills. So I had to get good quick. And that's kind of why I said, you got to go where the money is. And if selling furniture is paying the bills, the scalable aspect of it is to build more furniture. And as long as you're not letting your marketing or however you're getting your name out there lag in those regards, you can start to, watch the zeros go up on your P&L pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the best and most prolifically profitable business. But that's kind of what I was doing. I was just sprinting. I mean, you could say I still do that today, but I was just sprinting full steam ahead, making as much stuff as possible and getting as many skills as I could physically creating in a shorter period of time as possible.
John, going through your channel, I mean, you highlight some of the success, the pros, and the mistakes you've made, and you show some of the great changes you've done. How do you deal with the hate that's out there in the woodworking world?
Yeah. Yeah. Because carpenters are totally not nitpickers about flaws, right?
Yeah, I mean, let me take a deep breath before I say this. There is an incredibly kind and accepting part of the woodworking and carpentry community that I think is like, can I cuss?
Oh, yeah.
But that is absolutely just fucking amazing. That I love, that I am truly a part of, that I will go to bat and fight for all day. There's no gatekeeping. There's an accepting of all materials and all trades and whatnot. And then there's a part of just absolute stick up their fucking assholes every single video want to just tear you down people out there. And those are the ones that I always would, like to say, come find me in a parking lot, because there's no way you're going to talk to me like this to my face. But over the years, you just get like really thick skin to it.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say earlier was like, if I could give any advice to someone that wants to make content online professionally, don't do it as a woodworker. It's a brutal space to be in.
Yeah.
I've fortunately found an incredible audience. Like my fans, the Malecki mob, they're awesome people. Now there's a lot of assholes that comment in my stuff, but like the mob's coming at them quick, like you don't understand John's like content and my vibe and what I'm trying to do. And, I'm here to promote the trades and promote getting your hands dirty, make it as approachable and enjoyable as possible. There's a lot of validity and value in both the human experience and in life and business that you can get from making shit. And there's a lot of people out there that think that you should keep people from making shit. And so, to answer your question, Terry, thankfully, I grew up playing football in the limelight and had a lot of people that didn't like me because I got thick skin at a young age. And when I got into this, I was like, these guys this is nothing compared to that world, and you listen to radio broadcasters in Pittsburgh talk shit on you like all the time.
Oh, yeah.
There's some little keyboard warrior on YouTube. Don't bother me none.
Yeah.
So I was really, really fortunate there, but that is something that a lot of creators deal with and a lot of people deal with in regards to putting their work out there online. And it's a shame because it really shouldn't exist. And I think it comes from a place of fear. And you guys could probably attest that a lot of the people that are willing to go out there and, bash other people is because they're not doing it, or at least making the content, and they're like, oh, they're going to take the part of the market, or they're going to teach people the wrong way to do it, or whatever it is. Meanwhile, you're doing literally nothing to grow the industry while it's dying. You're doing nothing.
Yeah.
This, like, you think that this negative shit's going to help? Like the trades are dying, and this is your answer? Like, come on.
Mhm.
It's super frustrating. You can see my like whole body, like I got
Yeah.
like sit up. I'm gonna start sweating over here.
Hey, that's
Sure.
all right. There'll be beer sweats. We'll be good.
We're all
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Hey, but no, that's why it's so important. Terry and I are so committed to this in the trades because we have our construction camp for kids where we teach, middle schoolers about this stuff.
Yeah, which I love.
And they're so engaged with social media. They see somebody creating something amazing and then
Yeah.
they see a bunch of bashing. It naturally gets them turned off to being like, well, I can't even create something half
Yeah.
as good. And that's where it's like I love how you keyboard junkies or whatever you call them. It's funny, they're just out there, and it's like, man, who is in these basements just typing this stuff? But it just drives you
Right.
crazy. It's affecting the other side. So that's where even Terry and I try to be a voice and like saying, hey, no, like there is so much opportunity in these industries.
Yeah,
And but
there
that
is.
was actually going to be my next question to you, is like, for even a young person looking to get into, say, your like carpentry and woodworking and things like that, like what would
Yeah.
you consider, take yourself back 20 years and say, what are the three most essential tools you would say that person needs to get started in carpentry?
Well, let me write a note there before I get distracted and ramble. You want 3 essential tools.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So I think it's quite interesting if you look at the dichotomy of the world we live in today and then how people are approaching jobs in the trades. A lot of people think it's still the traditional world in which you've got just a bunch of dudes showing up with lunch pails and toolboxes ready to work, clock in and clock out. And like at the end of the day, it's probably one of the most technologically advanced industries in the entire
Yes.
world, like all the trades, right? The technology is moving faster in the trades than you could probably say for 90% of the other markets in the world. And it's just not as cute as what you see in finance or what you see in architecture or engineering, which are applicable to the trades.
Yep.
But the whole concept of the trades is still like this dirty basement kind
Mhm.
of grime under your fingernails world. And the reality is, both of you guys are probably on the computer more often now than you've ever been, or the computer's on the job site and you're using it for everything from project management to design to inventory to whatever to run your business. And those skills are insanely sought after. So, first essential tools that I would say, if you're a young person looking to get into the trades and say you're trying to figure out where to go, is learn the technological side, right? Whether it's tools that are applicable to the trades and design, whether those are in management or whatever it might be, there's a ton of technology in the trades that is going to continue to vastly improve and advance compared to other industries because the trades aren't going anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be one thing, is like focus on the tech. Second, focus on something that actually gets you fired up, right? And so like if you like people, you can learn product and get into sales, right? And you could do it in the trades and make an incredibly lucrative living. You can help improve, getting new products out to market or whatever it might be. If you like creating, you can get into actually learning the building trades, or you can get into like the skilled side of the trades. If you like the back end side of things, project managers make ass loads of money and they're incredibly valuable,
Yeah.
as so much as are like specified accountants. Like accounting accounting for a GC is like difficult. There's those P&Ls look like they're insane, right? And so that's a highly sought after skill. And so secondly, it's like find something that gets you fired up, that gets you motivated. And then lastly, it would be see if there's any gaps in your local area that you can fill immediately, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I always say I'm in Pittsburgh, right? I know more millionaire plumbers than I do financiers or accountants, right?
Wow.
And I was saying this to Roger. I was like, it's crazy because people think that you've got to go and get college degree and do all this insane shit to make money, and it's just not the case.
Mhm.
If you're in a local market and you're seeing that like none of the plumbers are doing anything on social or anything online, and you want to be a plumber, like fill that gap. Be the online guy that the millennials like myself are going to go and look at and validate your business online first, and then call you because they don't have to go and do some traditional Googling or yellow pages if you want to even go that crazy far back. You know what I'm saying? But like find a gap and fill it. If you're someone young looking to get your business started. So one, embrace the tech, do something, find something there that can bring value to the industry. Two, I would say to do something that fires you up, right? That keeps you motivated, right? Don't go into something just because you see an opportunity. Like make sure it's filling you up and you feel encouraged to do it on a daily basis, especially if you want to do it for the rest of your life. And then three, if you're just getting started, is like find a gap in your local market.
John, you've been working in the shop for 20 years or better. What's some of the crazy safety stories that you've had come through your
Shit, safety wise, I mean,
Oh, hold on. This is good.
I
Don't do top three.
I
I feel like this could go deep.
nah, I don't even. So I'm a pretty careful guy, as much as it may seem in my content that I'm not. I just I feel like, I mean, I'd like to hear your guys' opinion. If you fear a tool, you're more likely
Mhm.
to get hurt using said tool. And I just don't fear my tools. And so you'll see a lot of comments from like confident individuals using tools who are like, this dude just doesn't fear his tools. He's not reckless. He's not doing anything outside of the parameters of what, what it should be used for. He's just confident in his tools. So that's kind of like my safety premise is if I'm confident with something, you're going to see me using it with confidence. If I don't have confidence in it, I'm probably not using it. I'm especially not using it on camera. And if I am, I'm telling you how scary it is. And so as far as like safety stuff goes, we've kept it pretty tight. Most of my injuries have been like dumb stuff small on myself, like impact drivers into the palm and into the top of the hand,
God,
like
those are rough.
chisels into the fingers and like lacerations in that kind of regard. You learn not to like chisel it your own self in the carpentry world often. Maybe I've never had a kickback happen to me, knock on wood.
Yep. We were knocking on
but
wood for you, John.
Yeah, but I've seen it, and I got a buddy. He lost 2 fingers on the back of a dump truck working as an operator, and so like I keep I like I said I keep it pretty safe. Where my guys give me shit because it gets hot. We don't have any AC in our shop, and it's a big metal box, and it gets warm in the summer. And I'm like long pants, closed toe shoes, a minimum of composite toes, and I'd appreciate it if you wore a hat. And then I also have my own safety eyewear which I like force them to wear all the time, even if you're holding the camera, just because you never know. And so I don't really have any like insane safety things to say, as much as it might seem that I'm just willing to send it. But if I'm sending it, trust me, I did research beforehand to like make sure something nuts isn't gonna happen. Now I will one thing I can remember here. We were putting in my epoxy room where we have like a designated room in my shop for pouring. It's temperature controlled and it's keeps dust and everything kind of out of it. And when I was blowing the wall open, I was knocking out some studs and I don't know what I was doing, but I was for some reason I was like, maybe it was for the camera shot. And this is like the cap of my stupidity, but I like pushed the wall out or something. And the header beam just came down and like just clocked me right on the head. And it would have knocked out a normal person. But like I just like ate it and my employee looked at me and I was like, ooh, that sucked, dude. And thankfully I had a hat on, right?
Yeah.
And then like after the fact it hits me, I was like, if one nail's sticking out of that, I'm dead. Like it might have killed me. And I was just like, I got kids now. I can't do stuff like that. Like, so like I said, I keep it pretty safe because we're online so much,
Yeah.
you can't run it that loose or it catches up to you because it's gonna make it on camera.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I started wearing eyewear so much. I was
Oh,
getting
yeah.
so many comments on like, dude, you're an example to anybody that's getting into it. You have all these views and blah, blah, blah. And you're not wearing safety glasses. You're just ignorant and you
Mhm.
don't care. So I started wearing them and then I found out how shitty they are. And then I was like, I'm going to make a pair that are good. But that's kind of like what the evolution came from is I got sick of hearing how ignorant I was to wearing safety glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a role model now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether I want to be or
I
not.
know, right? And then you see the episode where he built the adult baby bouncer carrier.
Yes.
And then that brings the level of credibility down just enough.
Yes.
By the way, one of my son's favorite episodes, by the way, watching you sit there, eat ribs in an adult
Right.
baby bouncer.
I love that you bring that up. That's such an old video that like you forget you did some dumb shit like that.
Oh,
You guys
dude.
probably did some projects back in the day. You're like, oh yeah, I did do
Yeah,
that.
it was.
That's one of those for
That
me.
was a great episode. So, well, it's funny though because we talked about this, Terry and I, in our show prep. My brother and I, man, we were in the shop at like 7, 8, 9 years old, running radial arm saws and table saws growing up. No supervision. And,
Yeah.
my dad, thank God, did a very good, well, he didn't do a very good job on supervising, but he did teach us a lot about, hey, respect the tools for what they do. And this is the function. And then because of that, like, man, we used it. We created stuff growing up just all the time. No supervision. Nope.
Yeah.
We got all our fingers. Now I'm going to knock on wood and got all of our fingers and we're good. So we find that some folks are just scared of the tool. And it's like, you got to ease them into the comfort zone of it. Terry, you see that at OSU and OU all the time. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
These are grown-ups that they're 19 years old, never ran a power tool. It's crazy.
Yeah, you can never assume that they grew up the same way you did. had the same experiences you had. And so, you get this young person, 18, 19, 20 years old, and he's looking at this thing, trying to figure out what it is and what it does. I mean, just be compassionate with them and make sure he understands, because they're not going to ask that question. You need to get out
Yeah.
there
Oh,
and
yeah.
just help them.
They're looking at you. Look, do you know how it was? Yeah. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They,
Deer on the headlight.
so, John, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I've seen these, you do a lot of these little shorts hacks that you see on TikTok and things like that, and love that you recreate them in your own world. But what's been the craziest one that you've done that actually shaped out to be a good one? Like, oh, that's actually pretty damn good.
There's only been a few that like so let me take a step back. Over the years, my content has kind of developed from being like someone you would look at as a professional, like teaching and educating and informing in an entertaining way, to I feel like now my brand is a lot more like I'm the guy that's trying the things online that you see online that you wish you could try. Like, I build a lot of like crazy stuff, like just transparent. This will probably come out after that, but right now I'm carving a rock to be able to do a dovetailed inlaid wooden bench inside of it. Just like
Ooh.
no one's gonna try that. We saw it online. I got tagged in 1,000 videos, and like no one is gonna try. I'm gonna try it. So like, anyway, going back to your question, a lot of my short content used to be me giving tips and tricks and advice in ways that were experiential for me. And then I started to get a lot of people wanting me to try stuff that they wanted to try, but just like me kind of doing it in my vein. Cause you see a lot of stuff that maybe that's missing a piece of knowledge or something to make it actually actionable, or they just want to see my kind of like funny shtick on it. Some of the most viral ones I have are all like winding power cord or like extension cords, right? People get so pissed. They just assume if you make a video that they think you invented it. They're like, this guy made this video on winding up. He thinks he invented this. Dude's ripping off this dude from 1972. He made like, bro, just there's like, I got a different audience and said person and said person, said person. It's like, it's a cool thing. I just wanted more people to know about it. I thought it was rad. But so there's some of those like popped off, and it was the weirdest thing. And like one thing about making content for a living is you make content that's winning, and then you want to make sure you keep making it. And so what you don't see on the back end is my video guy at the time, his name was Sam. He worked for a couple production companies in college and stuff. And they were very adamant about how they wound all their cords and cables up. Well, in construction, that there's some guys that are and some guys that aren't. And because he was so particular about how we wound our power cords and all of our extension cords, that's why I made the first video. And then I saw there was a couple guys that made them that banged. Then I started getting tagged in hundreds of them. So I made more. People got all PO'd about them. But when they were working out, I was like, wow, this is like actually kind of awesome. I got 100-foot like outdoor cord that does like arm wrap. And there's a shirtless dude on the internet that like made it famous. And he's way cooler than me. But like everyone thought he'd be pissed. He was like, no, what do I care? And I was just like, my bad. I didn't know who you were before I did this, buddy. And but like, it's so funny to see how the world works nowadays. And I was just showing it off because I thought it was awesome. And some people might like to know about it, because winding 100-foot extension cord is a pain in the ass for all of us. I don't care if you're famous on the internet or not. And so there was some bunch of stuff I used to do that was like that. That's people would tag me in and I would try it. Would be super cool. And then some of it's just kind of sucked. I will say, like cutting circles on like fixed blades. I've seen people try it on their own and like do it completely wrong and like whip their hand into the saw blade. I get tagged in that shit. And I'm like, first, like they're wearing a glove. They have their hand behind them. They're like doing everything you're not supposed to do. It's like, I don't know. I don't say any of that in my content. So we've pulled back a little bit on that part, because you get people that take things to another level once they feel like the gates are open in trying new things. But some of those performers for us are as far as like things that surprise me go, is like, hand cutting and inlaying like a bow tie in a piece of furniture, will pop off on a short form piece, and then you'll see a bunch of people try it and tag you. And you're like, yes, that's a foundational skill set. I'm glad you gave that a shot. Like, I'm glad that performed well. I framed a wall in one, it popped off. People got all kinds of pissed off about it. Right. But like, for whatever, millions of people saw it, And I bet you a few tried framing their own wall, which is all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do. Right. And like, so there's give and take in all of it. Nothing has really been something I wasn't like super comfortable. And I think that's kind of like the nature of it. The further along you get, like the more skills you develop and like the more, like, oh, I can do this. I got, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And especially when it comes to building, once you get good at the foundational stuff, you can adapt most things. We're getting to that point now where people are challenging me to build stuff, and I'm getting like close. Like I know how to do it for the most part. None of it's just like an absolute 100% surprise.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Well, I was going to say, are you starting to get nudged up and stretched in your capacity, John? Like, are you starting to get some things coming across the plans that are like, ooh, damn, that's going to be tough?
But, well, like, no. And like, I want that. I want to find those things. It's the problem. So that's the problem with woodworking is like, there are very intricate and difficult, like Japanese joinery techniques and things that I would love to try, but they would absolutely shit the bed as far as content performance goes because they're so niche. And like I make content for a wide audience at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And so like I'm the top of the funnel guy. I'm trying to get, I got 8-year-old kids that want to come for their birthday and look at the shop, like their dads have brought them through and stuff, right? Like that's my audience.
Oh, that's cool.
They don't care about, some Japanese scarf joint that's going to take me 2.5 hours to cut.
Yeah.
Not that cool. I know that. I know my audience. I know who I'm making my content for. So as much as I'd like to try that stuff, that would be very challenging and difficult to go through like the entire like book of Japanese mortise and tenon joinery for timber framing that I have sitting behind me here. It's just at the end of the day, I'm going to make good content and that's my business. So to answer your question, Will, it's like most of the things that I'm building now, I know a lot of like the aspects of like we're cutting a stone to do a dovetail inlay, right? Well, I knew like how to cut a dovetail. I know how to cut a dovetail in like a non-square shape. As much as it sucks, like that's what people want to see me do is they just want to see me do the things that suck because they're never going to try. So I'm like out there with an angle grinder and a gas axe, and like I'm cutting dovetails on like this big ass stone that we pulled out of like a farm and having a blast doing it, and it's fun. I actually have to like start over tomorrow because I broke today. But like the it's like not hard, right? But it's hard. So it's just a little bit different. But what I'm finding more difficult is that the projects are just getting insanely expensive and over the top. Like there's a table that's out on the internet right now. It's an AI rendering, which a lot of people send me AI renderings of things that just are like the physics of them can't exist in the real world. They're like, try this one, John. But it's an actual table with a real waterfall that comes off the end. It's like running water, right? And I was like, cool, there's a couple of those out there. I know how to do that. I've done a few. But then it goes to nothing. Like the water, that's what I don't realize is like you got to pump that water back into, right? And this is a permanent fixture in a home. So the home is built to pump water into it. I was like, I'm not building a house to build this table. And it's not going to do that many views, right? This isn't a 10 million view video. So that's my balance right now is like, how absurd can the project get without me having to like, I don't know, build a cathedral out of popsicle sticks to get the views?
Yeah. So given your background in YouTube and social media, what advice would you give a normal tradesperson trying to get out there to a wider audience?
Oh, love this. So I just did a talk on this to a bunch of YouTubers and stuff, and it applies across the board. Whether you're in the trades, you want to get into the trades, you want to, I don't know, you want to take your cooking hobby to another level on YouTube outside of the trades, whatever it might be. Start off with setting a goal for your channel. Whatever you want to do, set a goal. Start with that. That way you're moving in a direction. Whether that changes over time or not, that's fine. So like if you're a plumber, you're like our buddy Roger Wakefield, right? And Roger's great. He wants to expand the reach of plumbing and expand the knowledge bases of plumbing, right? And expand the trades. Like he's got a goal. It's amazing. Love him for it. His content, it does that, right? So you start with the goal and then you want to make sure that you are facilitating it with content that makes sense for that. Okay. So if you're a woodworker and you want to expand your woodworking online, well, are you trying to get more customers or are you just trying to make more friends in the woodworking world? Are you trying to educate other people so you can sell online plans and digital products, right? You have to have a goal that aligns with those in order to make your content strategy around it. And then 2, you have to establish who the hell are you making your content for and be specific. I don't care what platform it is. I don't care how much time and effort you want to put into it, a little or not, or a ton. The more you put into developing who your audience is on whatever platform, the more results you're going to get out of it. So if you can get as hyper, like both of you are probably very familiar with exactly who your perfect customer is for your businesses.
Mhm.
You probably have a name for them and they're probably on a wall, and your salespeople probably rehearse talking to said person on the phone. They know their apprehensions. They know what kind of pushback they're going to give. They know when they're going to give it. They know how to overcome. Like that stuff is normal in business. People don't think it applies to content. In reality, it really does.
Yeah.
So like on our build channel, we make content for a dude. His name's Joe. He's a 24 to 37-year-old dude. He's into his desk. He works at a desk and he plays video games at his desk. He spends a lot of time there. He identifies with it a lot. It matters to him. He's into LEDs. He likes to see how things are built, but he probably is never going to build anything himself. He is very money conscious because he grew up in a generation that was online where money wasn't like this, oh my God, never talk about it thing, right? So he's going to watch content that's either something that's insanely expensive or is like cheap and affordable because that's the stage of life that he's at, right?
Mhm.
He's started investing in his hobbies, which are getting quite expensive because that's what happens, right? To all of it. And so like I know these things and I talk to this person when I make my content and I have these avatars and I literally I have sheets and they're written down. If you can get that specific, you can make content that people can relate to, and that's how you can grow. So if you want to do it in regards to selling product to people and you are a plumber and you're like, my audience is I don't know, the suburban family of 4, right? The dad of that family's name is Al. He's 38 years old, right? He works a full-time job. He's very busy, but he has enough money to pay for people to fix his stuff. And because he has 4 kids, his shitter is constantly clogged all the time. And so
Yep.
when you're making your content, you're going to literally be like, look, I know your kids are flushing everything from wet wipes to, to paper towels to dinosaurs down the toilet these days. And if you are looking for someone to, snake your drain at the best price in Oklahoma City, your dude is me, right?
Mhm.
Or here's 4 tips if your kid just flushed a dinosaur down the drain, right? You see how you're talking to that guy specifically? If your goal is to attract customers, that's going to be the type of content that they're going to be like, oh shit, I'm calling John because
Now,
he knows me, right? He's real. And you can see a lot of that in local marketing strategies on
Yeah.
people that are winning on social, right?
Mhm.
They're talking to the customer where they're at because they understand them.
Now,
And so then the third piece of advice I give in that regard, and I'll be short, is to be consistent, right? So just whatever your goal is, define it, and then define who you're talking to. And then 3, make content for them consistently. And you'll see growth in winning.
well, John, thank you for that. And it's funny because we have that in our both our home services business and our software business and even our camp for kids. But I feel like that whole dinosaurs flush down the commode. Were you talking about yourself, John? Because I know you got small kids at home and you're dealing with that stuff, right? I felt a sense of
They're-
anger coming out of there.
They haven't figured out yet that they can flush the toilet. My oldest, see, I'm in the trenches, guys. My oldest is 3.5.
I
I've
know
got
that. Yeah.
3
ooh.
under 4.
Oh,
So
man.
I'm waiting for the middle one. She's like turning into this like little grizzly bear, right? And like she's gonna start to figure out that she can lift the toilet seat and shove stuff in there.
Oh,
My oldest one is just toilet paper, like just get it in. And so we're like, I got a snake at home. I got plunger in every room.
oh man.
Just mitigating that to the best of my ability. But we haven't quite got to dinosaurs and inanimate objects quite yet.
Well, when you were describing that, I was thinking, is this an avatar or is this John's current disposition?
But and I think, what is interesting is like, sometimes it's really good to develop your avatar based on who you are, right?
Yep.
And a lot of us do that. You want to get into making content, you make content for you. And that's fine. If you need motivated to get started and you want to make content for somebody, the only person that 100% knows you is you.
Mhm.
So make content for you. But the reality is, once you can make that content for whomever your target market or audience or whatever aligns with your goal is, that's when you'll really start to see growth. So sometimes it starts with you
Mhm.
and whatever problem you're dealing with, and that gets you kickstarted into whatever your journey is on making content or your business, right? And then it evolves over time. and you'll grow, but that person's going to stay back here. So you got to meet them where they are. So that's a great point, Will, because it's like, you're probably dealing with some shit that would be great to share with your audience as a business owner.
Yeah.
Which just make sure that it could potentially be your customer if you're trying to, convert to sales.
Yeah.
Hey, John, can you tell us about your master class and what inspired you to get it going?
Yeah. So when you make content for a living, you run into a situation where you just get constant questions, especially if you're doing something consistently over and over and over and over again. And for me, a lot of that was based around where I think I'm most proficient in my expertise is in building, which would be in live edge and epoxy tables. And so I decided to do twofold, use it as leverage for myself. One, an area to cultivate those individuals who are looking for more information and more expertise from me, because I was getting a lot of inquiries, questions. People wanted me to hop on consults, review their projects, fix their projects, coming to my shop and stuff. So the masterclass one was to facilitate that. And then two, I had 2 employees a year ago when I developed it that were both supposed to be hired to help facilitate our custom order and pipeline for those things. And so it was a training manual for them as well. And so I was like, look, this is the Bible for how we build epoxy tables. Any question you have, if I'm not here for scalability's sake, is going to be answered in this. And so I do use it twofold there, but I think it provides a ton of value to my audience. And I know it does, because those who've bought it are like, holy shit, I didn't realize that there's this much information on just selecting the right piece of wood. And as you guys know, once you get in the weeds and you've been doing it for a long time, I mean, Will could probably talk more about foundations than any human being should probably ever want to talk about. And anyone that wants to talk foundations with you is probably just gonna be just as fired up. And like, those are the people I'm facilitating with the masterclass. And so it's a good thing for me to use as a resource for my team in regards to like custom orders and stuff. We're not doing that much of that anymore, but that, and then two, answer a lot. I could just point people in that direction for all the questions that they have.
Now you're speaking my language, John, because it's like you got systems and processes, and then those systems and processes can now serve 2 masters, meaning internal teams and customers. Because even I've been getting pressure from my team about documentation for master classes, because people always want to jump on an hour-long call around the country. By the way, for those that are listening, and I still jump on an hour-long call every other week with you, still love you, but the calendar gets full sometimes, and it's like, man, I can't get to the work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's also tiered, right? It's more dynamic than that. Is that, say you have 10 people that hop on a group coaching call with you, Will, and they're asking, there's only 1 hour for them to ask questions, and you're prioritizing questions based on whatever. Well, 8 of those people have been around for 4 months. Then you got 2 new people showing up, and their questions are the exact same questions that the other 8 were asking 6 months ago. Well, you're not going to be able to provide value to the entire group anymore, because you're constantly going back to the beginning. And that's another reason that they're, having a resource to start with some foundational elements is great for those kind of things too. So that way the group that is willing to pay for your time, and everyone is growing from it, which is another thing that I learned, because I also have a business coaching program that I was doing for a while, helping woodworkers, make their first 6 figures out of their garage. And I got to a point where I knew, I was like, okay, we got to build the foundational elements, and you have to do these things first. So the group coaching calls everyone can benefit from.
Listen, John, we have this funny saying here. It's like, Will is a patron saint of screwing things up, and I am at least try to do it in a manner to be like a Texan, screw it up so bad you can brag about it. So what's a screw up you
Yes.
made in your career that hopefully somebody out there can learn from it and you can brag about it a little bit?
So I'll keep it related to like actual building and the trades. I think there's something to be said for those trying to build a business. And this is my advice based on my experience. Take it as you will. But I'm a firm believer in finding your core product offering as a business, that you should be specializing as fast as you possibly can in order to become, 1, more profitable, and 2, and find more joy in what you're doing. Specifically, if you're going to be a woodworker, I advocate for one-off high-end custom commissions instead of spec and scale kind of builds. I think it's just a more lucrative and enjoyable space to be. With all that being said, as a woodworker or someone who owns tools, period, most of the inquiries you're going to get early on when you launch your business are going to be to do things that people just assume can be done with tools or with your experience, i.e., as a woodworker, they're going to call you to fix, floorboards, trim, build furniture, decks, gazebos, anything made of wood. They just assume a woodworker can do. And to have a business that is constantly reactive is, in my opinion, a formula for failure. You have to be able to create the products that you want to use and build, use as leverage and build in the future, and take on those projects and get to that point as early as possible in order to charge what you're actually worth, and then be able to become efficient in those processes. All that being said, early on, I didn't follow any of that advice. And what I like to learn, I like to learn from.
It sounded like such a wise lead up. And then the
Right.
crescendo is, I didn't do any of that.
And that's why I know what I just said to you works. But the reason I say that is because early on when I was getting started building, I think I mentioned earlier, I was kind of specializing in reclaimed wood. I was doing a little bit of metal work with that. And that was kind of my style, was like an industrial reclaimed vibe. I had a customer come in and she wanted a full kitchen build. And for those of you that don't know, kitchens are expensive. And so I was just seeing dollar signs, right? And for me, I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. I was making good money, making furniture, a couple $1,000 a piece, starting to grow a portfolio. My Instagram following was growing. Therefore, I was getting a lot more inquiries. YouTube was starting to become a thing. And I was getting customers in multiple places. And I was able to have more leverage with my builds because I could build something for a client. I could make content on it. Both of those would grow more eyeballs and then feed the loop, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to be building those things. But I got an inquiry the inquiry came from another professional cabinet shop in the area who knew I worked with reclaimed woods. Anyway, she wanted like a full kitchen done. It was like 30 or 40 grand. She wanted to pay cash. Biggest job I'd ever had to date come in the door. My eyes got wide. I was like, it was like, I'll keep it PG here. I was like seeing an ice cream cone and being a chubby kid. But the idea of like, oh, kitchens are profitable. There's a lot of opportunity there. Woodworkers, I have a lot of tools that are, applicable to building kitchens, regardless of what you're making. And so I took on the job, and it turned out to just be one of those clients that makes you want to just shut the whole damn thing down, regardless of the money, right? All across the board, like was, everything from, and there was a ton of signs, and I've talked about this on my podcast and a bunch of other places and stuff. But the short of it is, she was insanely picky and also had a ton of expectations that were never set from the preface. And so in reflection, all of these things became check boxes for my business and my process, right? The questions to ask in fact finding, the way to take a deposit, right? The things to figure out before you even start to build the project, right? Keller and material selection choices and all that kind of stuff. Like all those things that you just have to get punched right in the face with early on to realize you never want to do it again. Was that kind of a customer. So she wanted exposed barnwood doors and drawer fronts and rails and stiles across the entire kitchen.
Ooh.
With saw marks in all of it. Every piece had to have saw marks in it.
Oh God, that
Which
sounds like a
is
disaster.
the kicker. Yeah, and so if you've ever worked with reclaimed wood, that's hard to do because you only have 3 square sides at max. The
Mhm.
next part about it that became a huge pain in my ass was I couldn't cut clean edges because she wanted the graying to stay around all the doors and all the sides, right? And then on top of that, she didn't like the way the wood looked once it got finish on it because it absorbed it and changed from being like a gray. So these things all started to compound. The project installation was an hour and a half away from my shop, right? So that started to become a thing. She started to suck up my time because I found the wood and I sourced it. And then she wanted more wood and was going to deal with them directly, but she needed my opinion because
Oh.
I was the wood guy. And so now she's sucking up my time that should be spent on building her kitchen and putting in other places, yada, yada, yada. I've never built a full kitchen before. I've done built-ins and I've done cabinets, one-off kind of thing. And so the opportunity cost there starts to stack up. And the next thing you know, this $30,000 project turns into a 6 months ordeal for me, right? With all of these hiccups, all this time lost, all this opportunity lost. I hate it at the end of the day. I don't want to use any of it in order to promote my business. Now I have no leverage. I'm not filming it. I'm not making content. Everything else is suffering. And it was just one of those jobs, Will, that like you look at after the fact and you're like, this sucked, but I'm so glad that I got my ass kicked so hard that I can look back on it, still be alive, right?
Yep.
And know I'm starting with what I don't want from that experience with everything moving forward. And so for me, that was like one of the major things in my custom business that opened my eyes to like, holy shit, negative is like bad sucks, but at least I can use it to never make that mistake again, kind of a thing.
God, I hate being stuck in those job purgatories where it's just like there's
Yeah.
no end in sight. And it's just like,
None.
God, just can a dump truck just come by and hit me right now?
Right.
It's
And when
oh,
when you're in, you guys have probably dealt with this too. It's like it was one of those jobs where the project was big, the money seemed big at the time. I was only doing about 200 grand a year or so in gross revenue. So I was like 30. That's a significant chunk of money.
yeah, cha-ching.
The
That
damn
buys a lot
kitchen
of
took up my
Yingling in
whole
Pennsylvania.
buys a lot of Yingling, right? Give me a new joiner. But the cabinets, took up my whole shop. Then she was showing up like 3 times a week just to like check on the project. But then we get delayed because of the construction on the job site, right? I can't scribe cabinets to walls that aren't done, like shit like that. And just like every nuance of like shit that could happen on a construction job happened because she was GCing it, and it was just a nightmare. And so
Yeah.
all those things, I was like, I never want to do this again. So I guess the takeaway would be, if you're young or if you're old, but you're in business, there is positive in the losses as long as you look at it as an opportunity to
Yep.
grow. And I'm thankful that I played football growing up, because when you take an L, you don't just like, "Bah, there goes the season, right? Everything's done." You get
Yep.
in the film room, you watch it again, you take notes and you try to improve, you adjust the game plan, and then you make sure moving forward that you're not making the same mistakes over and over. And that was one of those for me.
Yeah.
That was a really big one. And I have only built one kitchen since, and it was for myself.
I was gonna say, was it for yourself or did you even sub that
And
out?
we
But,
made videos on it. It was, I
yep,
made
I've
sure that
seen
I
that.
was using it for leverage and it fit my business model. And
Yeah.
but
The,
no more kitchens.
Well, that's awesome. Well, John, listen, I am so thankful. I'm very humbled that you come join us this week on the show. I've been a big fan for many, many years. It's funny, I have ruined an epoxy table, a brand like great walnut live edge slab
Ah,
that then that's what introduced me to you. Because I was like, the instruction directions on the epoxy kits are shit. I need to
shit.
figure out how to do this. And that's how I discovered you
What
many years
happened? Did it
ago.
crack?
Well, I had a little bit of issue. I didn't have the moisture content on the wood right, but then I got a lot of dust in the epoxy when I poured it because I was impatient. I didn't realize a lot about dust control. Also heating it, trying to get the heat out. I since have done a small cutting board, microed it down, but then of course been wrapped up in business and kids and life. So I plan on jumping back into it when I get a little bit more free time. But that was because of you that actually came out well. So first one did not. That's why Terry and I were laughing about your shirt. Not today, epoxy.
Yes.
Anytime I get to messing
Yeah.
with
This is.
epoxy, it's like, all right, what kind of day are we going to have today, fellas?
Oh yeah. You got to be ready to go to war if you want
Yep.
to work with deep pour epoxy, and that's a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize is it's finicky, but you can wrangle her down. You just got to be ready and willing, and like never miss the checklist, right? So it's it's something that I'm like, it's not as hard. I don't think it's that hard to do. There's a couple like core things anybody listening wants to get into epoxy is: one, buy the right damn epoxy. First and foremost, if you're pouring a deep river in something, get deep pour epoxy. Pretty simple there, right?
Mhm.
2, build a mold that's not going to leak, or buy one, because that's the next thing that everyone has issues with is the mold. And you could get all this in my masterclass. I actually have free resources for it too out there.
Yep.
And then 3 is make sure that you're pouring in a temperature controlled environment and that you're storing your epoxy in that environment before you pour. So the
That was my
epoxy is going to have
mistake.
guidelines. Yeah, it's going to have guidelines on it. If it's 95 degrees in your garage and the epoxy needs to be poured between 65 and 80 degrees, probably shouldn't pour it in 95-degree weather, right?
Yep. That's right.
I don't
Hey,
know. I just did it my first time and exploded a piece of walnut in half too. And so that's how I learned. Fortunately, I saved it. That piece of furniture is down in a showroom downtown still, but yeah, no,
Oh,
I
that's
will.
cool.
I've been there, man. That's why I'm trying to help the people. You don't need to suffer like I suffer.
They well well, listen, some people enjoy your suffering just a little bit because you're some of your scripts, I love how you own it on your show, and it's like, "Well, that didn't work, so I started back over." But then
Yeah.
it shows humility in the trades as well, so, John, I can't thank you
No,
enough.
none of us are
Obviously,
perfect, right?
we're gonna put your contact information in the show notes, but specifically, like, you've got a few different online resources, like, for your website currently. Where is that, and how do people reach you to gather more content and understand about what you do, view
Yeah.
your videos, all that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're new to me, you could just plug my name in on every social platform and it'll pop up with a myriad of
Yep.
content and fun stuff. My website's johnmalecki.com. We're constantly, we sell digital plans there, a lot of merch. Right now we're running a giveaway. You can get a piece of furniture from me and stuff. There's my classes and courses and stuff on there. We also have like a private community for like super fans where we do behind the scenes content. We do live streams and Q&As, all kinds of fun stuff there. We have a second channel that we launched on YouTube. We just hit 200,000 subscribers and we're over
Oh,
like
is that
18
the
million views on
John
that thing.
Malecki Screwed?
Unscrewed, yeah. So that
Unscrewed,
channel is
sorry.
just me
Whoops. Sorry.
unscrewed. Yeah, you better watch that one. But it's no builds. It's just me having a good time, mostly with tools. So the contractors and we get a lot of tradespeople commenting on those, and I meet them in person. So
Yeah.
some cool, fun stuff there. We're just, like I said, trying to bring a good positive attitude and shine a positive light in the world to get your hands dirty. And we're trying to bring as many eyeballs as we possibly can to it. And so type my name in, you might see some stuff that puts a smile on your face. And that's kind of what we do. So appreciate you guys
Well,
having me.
hey, it's doing a lot more than bringing smiles. It's bringing people to trades or creating more because of it. And that's what we need in this world is just people getting into creativity, also making stuff because, man, we're not going to fix this problem just sitting around, just complaining about the
Correct.
problem. So you're part of the solution. John, appreciate you. A huge fan. Other than that, everybody listening, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week on Beers with Contractors.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.